So we're going to begin the board retreat. It is 1:21. This board retreat was advertised appropriately, and we are going, you want me to say? The Runnymede Board of Education retreat is called to order. We are in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975 entitled the Open Public Meetings Act. Time, date, and location of this meeting was appropriately advertised by notifying the retrospect as well as posted notices in the Borough Hall, Runnymede Post Office, Mary Holt School, Ryan Bingham School, Grace Downing School, and the Runnymede Public School District website. I guess we can stand up now and do the pledge since we're all here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, Sean, you need to take a roll call?
I'll take roll call.
Okay.
Ms. Beebe?
Here.
Mr. Buckheim?
Here.
Ms. Davidson?
Here.
Ms. Farry?
Here.
Ms. Panzarella?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Torello?
Here.
Ms. Spalding?
Here.
Ms. Adair?
Is working. So at this time, we're going to start with board goals. Is that what you said?
And to review the board goals, which I believe you have that on the touch of your screen, if you tap on the board goals. I think Dr. McLaren is also going to bring it up.
What was the first one?
What's that?
There are 3 or 4.
There's 3 board goals.
3 more. Gotcha.
Mr. Harnish, you want to bring up the 13-14 ones to review?
Yes. And you have them in front and also up there. If you want to take a second, if you refresh your memories of what the board goals were, and we can discuss them, or we can informally review them. First goal had to deal with supporting policies and programs for student achievement. Second, to increase communication with the school community and stakeholders. And the third was to enhance and upgrade all district facilities.
So these are our 13-14 goals,
Yeah.
from the previous, the year that just passed.
Yes, and one of the things that we looked at when we looked at the board self-evaluation was to more periodically review these goals, possibly at each meeting, to make sure that we are hitting them. One of the things we could possibly do is, when something's going on, we're approving something, adopting something, just on the board agenda, we can just put a little asterisk, this hits board goal number 2, ongoing, we can do that as we're referring. So it's not, not a surprise to us, but sometimes, we kind of lose track of maybe what the board goals were. Okay? Is there anything on there that you're concerned with, that we might not have attempted or done? And Dr. McLaren, as always, you can always inject your.
And looking at these, as the administration reviewed the board goals from last year, one of the things that we saw was that we did touch upon every single thing that's here. Curriculum was a big issue last year. Through CUSAC, and we're still awaiting their response. However, through their review and meeting with them, they stated that our curriculum is in alignment with where it needs to be, and everything was in order that should be in order. Camden County Ed Services Commission and New Jersey School Boards Association board members were very active within both organizations. Ensure resources and supports are provided implementing developmentally appropriate character ed program within the district, which we do have in our pre-K through 8th grade buildings, programs in place. Ideally with the board session today, after reviewing this, we can hopefully then hear the school goals and then review possibilities for district goals, and then we can change and modify the 13-14 goals for the 14-15 school year. Since a lot of the areas that are addressed within the 13-14 board goals are the areas where Board of Education members should be focused on as board members within the district, and simply modify or change the goals to either elaborate on them or to just continue that process.
I have to increase communication with the school community and its stakeholders. One thing that it said here is number one, appoint a liaison to participate or attend community meetings.
Mhm.
I would like to backtrack and say that we need to do a better job of doing that. I know you go to every one, but it's not fair that you go to every one.
But I mean, I met everyone. If someone wants me to report on what was done, I'd be more than willing to do that because I met everyone. That's
Right.
not fair. I've been doing this for years.
Well, I know, but I thought maybe you would want a break, but I guess not.
No, probably not.
I'm
Guess
not-
what? If you gave me a break, I'd still be there.
You'd still-
just so
you'd
you
still
know.
be there with
I'd
us.
still
I
be
know
there.
you would.
Absolutely.
But what I mean is, you know, I do think that it's.
Just so you all know.
I do think that it's official, like I did go to a couple meetings that, I've never been to in the past few months, I don't know if that was a good or a bad thing, right, Angel, but, I do think that we should be represented officially at every, especially because, quite frankly, I just feel like if there's some kind of disconnect, I don't really understand why, I don't believe it's from our end, but there's something not right, so I figured if one of us always go.
Dr. McKenna and I spoke briefly this morning, that was this morning, correct? And about maybe in September, he and I going to a borough meeting, and maybe asking them for a few minutes so we can kind of state what our goals and objectives as a district are, just to throw it out there to them, so it's not any surprises, so we don't have that, invite them to come to me, whatever. Just to kind of make ourselves known at that borough meeting in our school year, tell the borough what we're doing. Also, you know, we do appreciate the fact that we have some shared services that we've done with them, we'd like to increase them. You know, simple little things like they put a recycle and trash receptacles outside Bingham about 2 weeks ago, because they had some extra stuff that they were giving us.
Great.
Yeah. We want to, and they also helped us with the lining of our parking lots at all three buildings, the curves out front. They have a machine that, you know, can do that a lot quicker than us with a paint pan and a roller, so we were thinking about going out in September to do that. If there's no objections.
Liaison from the council.
It's, Patty Patsy, Eleanor
No, it
Pellegrino.
isn't, it's Eleanor.
Yeah, but she
Eleanor
said,
Pellegrino.
but they haven't been here. Again, there's a disconnect. Everyone says they're gonna do
And
it.
I don't think she works, right?
Well,
Eleanor
that has
does.
nothing, that's neither here nor there,
Yeah,
I
no,
just feel
Eleanor
like we
does.
need to be represented there more. So if you officially went out and said something, I think that would be great. And not that, like, again, we want more shared services, we agree, the board is on board with your feelings as well. I just don't, sometimes I think that things that are said here or things that we approve here, by the time it gets reported back, or when it gets reported back, it's incorrect.
Totally twisted.
It's totally twisted. So I feel like one of us or two of us should be there. And I'm not necessarily saying administrators because it takes 2 minutes for me to drive there. I don't want, you guys have small children. I just want, I just feel like if it's not always just Maria, I think that would be great.
I think it's better that we go.
Yeah, we're.
The actual board
proactive,
members,
yes.
absolutely.
Maybe we could put a list together of the
And we
various
can-
meetings,
I have one.
and then we,
I can email it to everyone.
Yeah.
and then we can maybe divvy up.
Yeah.
I'll go to the planning board meeting, or I'll go to the
Yeah.
borough meeting, or I'll go to this meeting,
I can-
so that it's not on the one person's shoulder.
I think that would be great.
I think it's better if we go to the board as a whole, the council as a whole, instead of just individually. Because I think then it takes out perception of individualism and more a unified, you know, you and not necessarily just one of us, because I mean, Maria lives here, I live here, obviously, we're homeowners that pay our taxes, and I think we all get seen as that person who's living in town instead of the school board member. So I think for, not that I wanna give you something else to do, but for you guys to meet with them more frequently as a unified front, and them as the group, then that line of communication is truly there, not just as an individual with another individual, more as a whole. Maybe it's something we need to do as a whole together,
Well, I think it should be done
as
every
an
couple
entire
months.
board with an entire
We have
council.
No,
done that in
not
the past.
opposed.
In the past, there's been a meeting with both, but
Yeah.
I think what Samantha's saying is on a monthly basis, when they have their monthly meetings, there's no
Right.
report given back and forth. It is time, because it is a new council, that the school board and the council should be meeting.
Just a separate meeting.
But
even
not
if
every
it's
month.
once a year. Maybe
Exactly.
once a year.
Well, we can reach out to them. I just feel like I feel like we need to do a better job.
Mhm.
So if we have to be the one extending invitations and giving ideas, then let's do that.
Sure, sure, sure. We'd like into a work session, before board meeting, to report on.
Yeah, and I think it would be great if Mark and, Sean went to September, you know, beginning of the school year, fresh, you know, and just let them, yeah, just introduce, you know, what we did here, since there's not a representative here, and then there's nothing that can be, it's black and white, it's the truth. That's all.
Would another time be good for administration to go, like during budget development time, to set forth and answer any questions that way? Because I know it seems like whenever they do come and they have questions, it's
Always
It's related.
monitoring. It's always got like that.
just to give them a little knowledgeable presentation.
Or invite them to our work session again.
There you go. Yeah, I think that would be great.
Mhm.
Just come on in and see what transpires before we meet officially.
Right. Sounds good. That was my only concern with all of our goals from last year. I think that everything else was good.
You know, obviously we wanna enhance some of the things that we currently have in place, because we can always do a better job. I thought it was great, the board, just since I've come to the meetings now for 5 or 6 years, just the amount of participation from the board members as part of the School Boards Association, and Naomi and Chaz, you know, when everybody is always doing something, where they're going to extra meetings and taking additional time and reporting back, so I think that's been great. Is there anything else as far as, you know, outreach to the community, something we're always trying to get people involved with? We could always have that as a goal, is community
Yeah,
outreach.
absolutely.
Yeah. I think we had a great showing last week at the meet and greet. And, you know, you always wish there was 5 times as many people there as there were.
Hundreds.
But it was a good turnout, we still want more, you know? So maybe it's an opportunity to do some other things during the year, those people who couldn't make things like that, just to, you know, help them out a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's all. And even the social media that some people don't like. It's a good
I
way.
didn't say like it, I don't understand.
It's a good way to get it out there.
It's tough.
How many people saw your ice bucket video?
Over 4,000.
Over 4,000 people viewed it.
And I also do wanna reach out to the community, using Channel 19, something we kind of
Yes, it's
veered
so
away
easy.
from a little bit, but I could have a connection now with Mr. Smith.
Mr.
Black
Smith.
Bush Light.
Helps out with it to get some of our stuff blasted out there.
And it's so easy. It's a simple email with a PowerPoint slide and boom, it's up, and it's wonderful. Some other community organizations in town use it
Delmar uses
all the
Yeah.
time.
it a lot.
And I gotta tell you that is the key to like, my father can watch it for 6 hours a day. And he'll come back and he'll say, I asked you to get that up for the VFW and I watched it all day today and it's not there. I said, Dad, I told you it'll start running tomorrow. But I mean, that's something that a lot of people.
Because they play
on the
music,
older-
soothing music in the background.
You watch it as well?
Right.
Technology.
I
do,
Like every day of the month, which is really big.
That's still playing.
It tells you now, Samantha, you used to have to sit through Gloucester Township's elementary schools, every student of the month for every school. Now it tells you what time each school district is gonna be on.
Yes.
Oh, that's
So you can
good.
skip over your.
Yeah, that is something, Mrs. Yazzie, I know, and Mr. McCann, like Gloucester Township will put the pictures of their students of the month up there and different.
And we already have the posts that we're putting up, so that would be as simple as.
Email.
Like
submitting
one
4 or 5
email,
times.
just one email.
Like the principals, why not use that? That would be, the kids would love it, think about it.
So it would be something that we do at the end of the week, and
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
4 or 5 slides that we just send
It has to
over.
be submitted by a certain day, like Tuesday or something, to
You
be
can
out by
just
Friday.
email Channel 19, it'll
Yeah.
tell you.
If you could just send us the information for email, then
Yep.
we can get it.
Okay.
I have a question, with our electronic communications and everything. Should we think of putting the picture of each board member and their name? So when people see us, they know who we are, we can talk. When I came to the fair, which was wonderful, but, not too many people who I was,
Yeah.
you've been on the board how long?
Yeah.
So maybe if we had a thing and put our pictures with our name, people would be able to put the name with the faces.
Other school districts have a little bio of each person, how many children they have, how long they lived here, that kind of thing, but not like a home address, so you
No.
wanna keep your,
But they do have a link to their
Right.
email address.
Right, yeah,
Like
yes.
that's what
Yes.
Black Pike has.
yes, something like
That's
that.
something we do.
I'll be absent.
I'll draw.
You could draw me, you could draw my
Well,
picture, Mr. Ryan.
We can all, you can, yeah, like, and it can only be this big, like mine. He's like, I don't want it.
And then of course, some of the things with making sure funds are available for district upgrades, that would fall under the ROD grant that we have, and that will be coming up more towards the end of this year into the 15-16 school year. So we will be discussing more of that throughout the course of the year.
Actually, might be coming up a little earlier than that. Spring, if we get some of
Spring
these
for the
projects done, for the windows and, hopefully get that rolled in.
Any other questions on last year's board goals? Okay, in your, if everyone notices, we have a new running tab up top. Ms. Torella liked it very much.
As per my request. Thank you,
Um,
county school does not walk like a prison anymore, thank you.
Next, we were gonna just look at, the 13-14 district goals, Mr. Rapp?
Yes, sir.
You want us looking at district goals now?
Yeah, the 13-14 district goals, so we
Okay.
can just review to
Okay.
show that we, what we've accomplished.
I have so many pictures.
Those were the,
Yeah, but I'm just,
one, because you can.
Oh, yeah.
Click.
But
After good.
Okay, back.
All right, so, district goals, there's 3 district goals as well. Second, if you haven't already, look at that. The first one dealt with SGOs. I'm happy to say, I think that development of SGOs went very smoothly for us in Runnymede last year. It's a compliment to all the administrators in the district, the time they took in the beginning of the school year to explain that to the teachers. And when questions popped up before the submission, they were able to get that feedback to them. So we do appreciate that help. We did all the trainings, modifications if they needed it, and the evaluations have been done. For those SGOs, some things have changed, I know, with the amount of percentages that went into that. That came out, what, in June?
Yeah,
And honestly, that's gonna keep changing. The park assessment is supposed to be this for the 14-15 year, this upcoming year. However, there's now questions as to whether or not it will be paper-based, whether or not it will be online, what version they will be following, and even after the first year is done, that's baseline data, that first year. You can't really look at it as true data until you have multiple rounds of it being administered to see where students are. But no, teachers, administrators did an excellent job, and teachers were very open to the process of SGOs. We started from day one. I think Mr. Keeley did a presentation on day one on SGOs to help teachers create those. This year, one thing we are looking towards is we might keep that streamlined process for SGOs, but there might be a possibility that we're able to have the teachers submit their SGOs through real time, which is our student information system. And that way, we're just trying to streamline all the programs that we do have.
Trying to have everything in one
One,
platform.
1 to 2 locations.
And the second goal had to do with that teacher evaluation system. The implementation was the first year for, J and everything. And last year, we said we used a Teachscape platform, which I think we did a good job with. There were some bumps and bruises along the way with any new thing, but I think we got through it. We met with the DAC committee couple times during the year. We'll do that again coming up this year. That meeting is obviously with district administration, board member, parents, teachers. And it's basically a way to get your feedback from how things are going. This year, we'll be using we're ditching Teachscape, we're going with a real-time platform. We did do a brief training over the summer on what that's gonna look like. So the teachers, it's gonna look like something new, but it's the same content, it's just a little bit different presentation. Which is not only saved a lot of money with the Teachscape, but we also has everything in real time, which is good.
And TeachCape wasn't as user-friendly as it had been in the past because they came out with a newer version for last year. Most times you would think a newer version would be a better version. However, this wasn't necessarily the case, and there were many times where, even though I was the person who set it up, I was not able to change things that were in the system. I would have to go through the individual administrator and say, can you log in and take this person out and add them to this person? It was a lot of complications. With real time, they offer the same rubrics online. We are still using Danielson's framework. So we still have the same critical components. We're still looking for the same things when we go into the classrooms. It's simply in a different format that is very user-friendly. Administration, myself, I reviewed it with a few teachers as well, looked over the format to see that there really isn't much of a change. It's just a different platform that's being used instead.
And our final one with the district was just improving that communication piece, similar to the goals for the board. I thought we did, a great job as far as the social media, which I've embraced. But also some of those parent nights that were done. I know planning for doing more parent events, not only for the curricular piece, but for, internet safety. I know Mrs. Hines is talking to us some things for special education parents and some help for them.
Cyberbullying is one that we're going to be discussing. We have one coming up in October. It is on a Friday. It's a former Harlem Globetrotter. Some school districts in different areas will actually charge admission for people to come in and view it, but he will come in, he'll do 3 school assemblies, one in each of the buildings. He'll then do a parent event that evening for families to come out. He'll pull some kids out on the court, including parents. He'll do some tricks, try things out. He's extremely entertaining. I've seen him in other districts. I think Triton had him last year. Is that Franco?
Yeah, he's good.
So hopefully the kids will enjoy that, as will the families.
He really can connect, he really makes a connection with the kids so that it gets their attention.
No, he wasn't.
They'll love him.
Seth Franco, it's through the South Jersey Youth Alliance,
Okay.
and they really focus on bullying and making sure, they're a huge asset. They really help schools become compliant with all the HIB regulations, and the fact that they will do 3 school assemblies, they will do a parent event, they'll do professional development for 1 hour for a district, and they'll do a pre and post survey of students as far as their perceptions, and the surveys are from lower elementary where it's smiley face, sad face, no expression at all the way up to 8th grade where it might be more in-depth questions about how do you feel in school, are there certain areas you feel safer than others, things like that. So it's a huge asset to the district.
He was also had to overcome a lot of obstacles and some physical disabilities, so we talked about that too, which is perseverance too, along with bullying, so.
One thing that we did discuss for this upcoming year was everything seems to be front-loaded in terms of us bringing speakers in the beginning part of the school year. So what we're gonna look to do also is then bring in a second person during the second half of the school
Right.
year after January. So that way we are kind of continuing to touch on it throughout the course of the year as well.
And then some of those other community events, obviously, as we mentioned earlier, PTA is great in this town, the things they put
I
together.
left when I saw this.
The father-son
Yeah.
night out, or daddy dance, and all that kind of thing, and then the other night, and the different things they do, just getting people out, so we'll increase those things, they do a nice job. Any questions on district goals from last year? I think, we set them, it was a great plan, and I think we got a lot of it done, it's satisfying when you set a goal and accomplish it, but there's always room for improvement, and we have developed some goals for the 15 school year. We'll talk about in a little bit after a administrative team presents their school goals, which are tied together this year to have more of a unified effort.
Do you wanna just,
Self-evaluation,
real quick, we
Yeah.
talked this morning about the main areas within the self-evaluation that the board themselves pointed out. It was policies, it was
Policies.
communication with community
Yeah.
that we
And
said.
outreach, and the outreach to the, different factions in town as well.
right?
Okay. So I mean, policies, we're working with Strauss Esman, having our previous meeting. You'll see when we do the 3 o'clock meeting, there's policy updates where we will be having the first reading. Every board member received a copy of what changes are happening within those policies that are mandated. In terms of community outreach, that's an ongoing process as far as getting community members involved and continuing to build perceptions of the educational programming in Runnymede. So that's ongoing, but that's a self-evaluation that you guys received back in May. How's this gonna
Inspired.
Right now you guys have the school goals, which is just an outline that the administrative team has put together.
And I believe Mrs. Yetsey has paper copies.
Yeah, I
Those of you
got-
that
okay.
love paper, you can bring them over.
Paper.
I want paper. Yeah, I want.
Sorry, don't wanna
Yeah.
disappoint Dr. Karen.
You know, yeah, see, come on. I'm watching who's taking the paper copies now.
I'll raise my hand.
Who's
You don't
taking the
have to
paper?
watch too closely, I prefer it.
I like to look at the quantity.
Oh, okay.
I think,
I have the PowerPoint.
I'm good. And you have, well, I think that's.
I told you, you realize how many jobs that I'm employing by making paper.
All right, so for the school goals, and I won't take much of their time, they're eager to present their goals. They met collectively over the summer. You know, I think it's great that they have a number of goals this year that they want to accomplish as not as individual schools, but kind of like blending everything together as like a community, because this is what this is, and we're trying to,
It's all of
you know,
us.
it's important to Steve,
It's all time.
what a first grade kid's doing, just like it's important to Jade with seventh grade, because it's, you know, they're all our kids, so that's what they met. I don't know who's starting this presentation.
I'm gonna start, I'm gonna keep it casual, since Mark and Sean didn't stand, we're gonna take But, you know, as Mark said, you know, true story is, when Mark told us we had to do school goals, of course, you know, Link and I sat down and we were talking, and we're like, well, what's Jade do? We called Jade, and then Jade got in it, and then Jade and Link and I all sat down, so, well, how does this affect special ed? So, really the purpose behind presenting as a group is to let you know that when we do anything, or make any goal in this district, we wanna not only make sure we account for every student and every grade level, but to make sure we also account for anybody who in the diversity, you know, whether it's a special ed student or whether it's an ELL student or whatever. So when we present a group, I think it's the best way to possibly do it, because we're representing, you know, the entire district and the entire community as one, okay? So you'll see a lot of our goals are really similar, we just tweak them for age appropriateness, you know, that work maybe for special education.
They look differently in whatever.
Yeah, so, what you're gonna see up on the PowerPoint is, pretty much just the goal. We gave you some more detailed things because we know we're gonna talk a mile a minute, and, you know, just so that some of this stuff can resonate with you. So I think GA's gonna start on our first goal and how it affects our elementary kids.
And also another true story is when we met with Mark, you know, Mark said it's a lot of goals, you know, and then it's kind of like you revisit the list and then you kind of like go eat one by one. And it's like you can't really take one of these off the table. But I mean, I get it, because typically it's like a SMART goal and you want to kind of maybe stick with 3. But when we went back to like kind of the drawing board again, it wasn't anything that we felt that we couldn't accomplish or couldn't focus on. So with that said, goal number 1, to closely monitor writing and reading instruction. I mean, obviously, the saying is inspect what you expect. So as leaders, if we're not in the classrooms, then we're not doing our jobs. And to say that is easy. So you walk in the classrooms, you kind of, you know, kids are engaged, you know, you look for the things that you've been taught, and the research shows is proven to raise student achievement. But this is a really hard goal. I mean, if you see, and we all have children or whatever, like, just because my son has a book in front of him doesn't mean he's reading and understanding what he read. So this goal is really important, and it's really hard to do from a teacher standpoint as well as a leader. But we jotted down some ideas. Most of you are familiar with the Daily 3, the Daily 5 language arts model, which all students are getting used to.
Yeah, and pretty much I think what it is what you're gonna see here, there's a lot of programs or assessments that have quick turnaround, so that teachers and us as administrators, we can make change or affect change immediately. Ask is great at the end of the year, but what's it do for the kid that year? You know what I mean? Even math, you know, I mean, we do it more than most districts, we do it 3 times a year, but we need something that a teacher can assess a kid at the end of the day or the end of the week, and then adjust their instruction the next lesson. So a lot of these things here, I think, you know, allow teachers to do that, because literacy is it's a tough subject to teach.
And another thing is, from my teachers, one of the things that we focused on all school year was writing. And not only did we implement the Daily Five model, and that was kind of mandated last year, the writing piece was something a lot of teachers, including myself, it's a really tough subject to teach. So all throughout the year, through common planning times and grade level meetings and faculty meetings and professional development opportunities, we started focusing on what works, like what does your writing instruction look like, and what are your students doing? So throughout the school year, I was just kind of keeping notes, or revisiting it, and at the end, I kind of developed this little framework. I love the little apple tool belt. It's just adorable. But anyway, I'll pass this around. It's something I think the teachers will be really proud of. I mean, I kind of just packaged it for them. But in that, with the writing instruction, it goes standard by standard. The teachers in front of me, they have their non-negotiables. It's like, look, when I teach writing, I can't, Jade, you can tell us to do 100 things, but I can't part, with this piece, and it's like, I respect them for that. So we kind of like collectively put all our ideas together, and I think that our writing instruction will definitely improve moving forward, because I feel like there's cohesiveness. Most of our goals and our standards go across 3 grade levels, so when our kids come into pre-K, there's expectations that then will continue through kindergarten and through 1st grade. I mean, it's the art of teaching, and I'm a teacher, I can respect that, but at the end of the day, we have to have some cohesiveness. Might not look the same or sound the same, but I feel that just starting with a framework to, get on track throughout schools will raise student achievement in writing.
And as a lower grade level, sometimes it's easier up through 5th grade because it's more of a self-contained setting. So you have the same teacher for language arts literacy that you have for science and social studies, and it allows for that. One of the things that we've been working on during grade level meetings in the upper grades that ties in with this, and we'll be continuing with it this year, is how are we preparing our students in science, in social studies, to write, to read informational text. And when you look at, many times we're giving students fiction-based novels, when the majority of what they're seeing is nonfiction, it's informational. And how are we really preparing them for the skills necessary to understand and use that and write to that? So that's going to be an ongoing process that what began last year that we will continue to be looking at this year as well. Barbara Epstein 2 years ago was in Bingham and Downing. Last year she worked mostly with 4th and 5th grade teachers. This upcoming year she will continue to support 4th and 5th, but she will be focusing most of her time on the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers to kind of build that, draw that bridge across the grade levels and provide teachers with strategies and job-embedded professional development within their classrooms and directly working with kids.
And the special ed piece of all that is, in conjunction with everything the elementary and middle school are doing, is we're looking at those 5 components of literacy and wondering why some of our kids, those who have disabilities, are not mastering those 5 components of literacy: phonics, phonemic awareness, vocabulary, reading comprehension, those types of pieces. And we have taken on the initiative of the Wilson Reading Program, which we did the 3-day overview. It's a research-based, highly proven effective model for especially dyslexic children. And dyslexia is the new buzzword this year coming in with the training of staff, and it's now has a adopted definition. We are taking it a step further, going to the level 1 training, which I'm ecstatic about. And we have quite a few volunteers of teachers that are going to be devoting their time to that level 1 Wilson training. And that will be an intensive program for kids in my realm especially that are not able to get what they need from the Daily Five, that are not able to get from the traditional and through the interventions that we have in the general ed population. So that's how we will be closely monitoring and enhancing our reading instruction.
Okay, goal 2. Good big one.
Well, it's important.
It's important, I agree.
There's snacks.
Okay, goal 2, improve student attendance and tardiness. I will be first to admit, I don't know that I prioritized that enough coming in last year. I mean, it's like you want to be instructional leader and you have these goals. I didn't quite grasp the understanding that there was an attendance issue at my buildings. gonna kind of put a stamp on that. So based on data and reviewing, I know that as a leader of Bingham and Downey, I have to make that a priority. And that is going to be done through myself, our guidance counselor, and the school nurses. We still have, moms where it's like, Jade wakes up, she's got a runny nose, oh, keep her home, and then every time Jade has a runny nose, well, now that's 29 days throughout the school year that Jade's had a runny nose, and that's a lot of instruction missed. It's like you can make up work, but you can't make up instruction. So I know that I'm going to do a better job with kind of broadcasting that to our parents, and I will also, if we're doing 5-day letters, 10-day letters, there's a system in place through my secretaries that will assist me with that, but I feel that between Mrs. Feldman and Mrs. Moore and Ms. Callahan and myself, we're all kind of really focusing on that because we need the kids here so that we can provide them with the instruction that they need. And like I said, I'd be the first to admit that I don't know that I prioritize that enough, but I promise you that that is a goal of mine for this year.
You want to develop healthy habits for kids too. So
Well,
they're
and
not
also-
hitting the middle school level and high school level, just because they, third grade, they woke up and they go to school, if their parents let them stay home or whatever, that's not
Right.
acceptable.
And also in the realm of special ed, which Samantha knows probably very well, is we have to rule out that any disability is not a result of lack of instruction or attendance. That it's not because of due to lack of that exposure to instruction, I should say. And a lot of our kids, not a lot of our kids, but we've seen a few that have that, and maybe not in our district, maybe they transferred in, but that lack of instruction, and then they're not up to where they need to be, and then we're looking at possibly disability. Well, state, laws are, you have to rule that out first. So addressing the attendance and attendance and tardiness is sometimes our first line of defense, even as a child study team. So helping the schools through sometimes individual student contracts. I had contracts with students this year that weren't special ed, that were general ed, but I was in the classroom and I saw this, this one coming in at 10 o'clock, and I'd say, what's going on? Oh, this is every Thursday and Friday. So then we kind of developed a contract, him and I, and we worked on that attendance issue. And that was not a referral me to child study team, because once that child was coming consistently, he knew what was going on. He knew what to expect, and it became less of a, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what's going on, because he knew. He was part of the classroom.
Now, Laura, your contract with this student was, did it remedy the problem?
Yes, it
Okay,
did.
That's good.
It actually did, and actually, it was kind of hard staying on top of it. Mr. Wing helped me a little bit because it was a little hard sometimes to get in contact with the parent, and I never wanted him to face a consequence for something that was out of his control. But often he was always honest with me, like, no, Mrs. Hunt, I didn't do it, and I'd say, okay, well then we can't spend our time together this week, but we can try for next week, and then he'd get himself back on the horse. It wasn't 100%, but I'd say at least a 90% improvement, just to have time. Just to have time to, I took him to an advisor, he wasn't missing instruction. So there's little things, and he wasn't special ed, but it was important to him, and it was important for him to get here because he was a really smart kid. But he was sometimes out of the loop because he would miss that beginning part, and, going back and going over the routine, he would come in and kind of just be in chaos, not knowing what's going on, because the class is in full swing of daily 3, and he doesn't know where he's to go. So
And
yes.
to piggyback that, with middle school age, as Mr. I said, developing those habits and then maintaining those habits is extremely important. We're kind of getting some of that feedback from the high school level that, some of our kids come in with a standard that isn't quite where we want it to be. So we're working on that with our older students and just really kind of picking up things. And Ms. Yazzie and I went round and round a little bit more intelligently at the end of the year, because I felt like at that point I really began to understand the system and the things that were set up and the number of letters, and I think by the end of the year my phone calls were being screened or monitored by parents. I'm not going to get to that one, because there were some parents that I called on a pretty frequent basis and said, how can I help you out with this? How can I put you in that position? Working with Lori with a number of her students, I was able to then become a checkpoint and say, hey, listen, how you doing this week? Monday and Tuesday, you here on time? Good job, way to go, keep it up. Miss Hines is looking forward to seeing you on Thursday. So we did a lot of that, utilizing all of the systems in real time. Ms. Yazzie and I are going to some training tomorrow morning to kind of enhance that a little bit more. with specifically addressing the need for parent communication and stressing the importance of kind of putting them there. We, in middle school, are also tying our Race the Clock event to attendance as well. And I can tell you that we did one Race the Clock event at the end of last year, and I had 3 parent phone calls about, Mr. Wayne, my kid's there every day on time, never late, you know, why didn't they get chosen? And I said, well, because we had a plethora of students that met that requirement, and, you know, we're gonna put you out there next year and kind of hold you to, look, reach that standard, and, you know, the benefits will be there, the fun activities that we can do will be there as well, so.
I have a question, not to interrupt you, but if we get into a contract situation, what is the board policy or the legalities of more involvement with parents, making the parents, I don't wanna say make them more accountable, but in retrospect, that's really what it
I don't know the
is.
policy on top of my head, but there are policies put in place for parental involvement, getting that attendance piece.
Yes.
Have a whole policy.
Okay.
And in my experience, what I did was, I always involved the parents.
I mean, they
How
should
those
be.
issues usually came up
But the
was-
problem, lots of times, the problem is you have such lethargy from the parents as far as not really wanting to be involved.
Yes, and really the buy-in, you have to get with the kid.
Right.
I mean, I had another student where it was just, you know what, mom's not waking you up, here's an alarm clock that I'm not using at home. That's, you know, and they become more responsible.
More responsible.
Unfortunately,
Right.
it's the way it has to go, and they start to get themselves up and let them know that I'm noticing that they're doing this is important. In all the cases, I always involved the parents, and a lot of times it came at parent-teacher conferences where the teacher pulled me in with the parents, and we talked to them about what would work for you, because sometimes just imposing something on their lifestyle is not gonna work, no matter what you do. So we worked with, in those situations with the parent, what's gonna work for you? And one time it was, you know, parents are shift work, they work opposite shifts. So one, you know, gets home, the other one was going, and he just kinda got lost in the sauce. If he was sleeping, he didn't get woken up. So we kind of worked with what would work. Okay, well, what's gonna happen here, and who's gonna call us if needs a little motivation that day. So,
And sadly, sometimes it comes to truancy charges.
yeah,
Right, exactly.
It
unfortunately,
gets to that
Yeah,
point,
you
and
don't
that's
wanna
why
get
you do the
there,
five.
you
We
know.
don't want to get there, which is why you do have the 5, 10, 15, which is why it's great that I think our school nurses are highly involved in making those phone calls as well. Because you're not gonna do a truancy charge on a student who has doctor's notes. They're not necessarily excused absences,
Right.
they're still absences. But it's those students who aren't showing up to school where it is the parent's responsibility to make sure that they are there. And that's where the policy does come into place. Well, we're just trying to put in everything else prior to. And we touched on it, but from a district level, with real time, the data's only as good as what's put into it. So a lot of times making sure that everything is input correctly, that we're making sure attendance is submitted at a regular time each day, and making sure that we're fully utilizing what we have to its full potential. And in real time, we aren't necessarily using every component available, which is what we're looking to do this year. Amy, did you have a question?
What is our policy on a doctor's note, out of curiosity?
It's actually all trumped by, sorry, Mark.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, I was talking.
I'm sorry. I was-
Policy
Oh,
on
I
the
thought you were
doctor's
answering.
note.
It's actually trumped by state law, and what state law says is the only absence that is actually excused is religious holidays and paid child work day.
That's a policy.
So it's a doctor's note, again, I think it gives you reason, the district reason to be, make reasonable
I had to
decisions.
do it when I remember my mom having to get a doctor's note.
Well, the doctors don't give us it makes us think a little more reasonably about how
Right.
we deal with it, like Sean said. If a kid's out 30 days because the kid has
Right.
a debilitating disease
Right.
and they have 30 days of doctor's notes, the school's not gonna take that kid to truancy. So, but by state law, we don't have to accept that, it's not excused. It's
And the-
not.
No, I don't mean excused as much as like in order, I remember, I don't know, does anybody remember? I remember my mother saying, if you stay home one more day, I have to pay the copay to take you to the doctor to get you the
There
doctor's
used to
note.
be doctor's notes required.
And it was a requirement to come back to school.
Exactly.
Do we not have that? Could we
If a
not
student's out for
implement it?
3 days, they do need a note to come back to school, and that's why the nurses do call. So that's separate.
Okay, but I've never had my son turned away because he was out for a week with the flu. And no one ever has asked me for a doctor's note. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying from my experience, because, come on, it's happened, 5 days ran through the whole house, and it started on a Sunday night, and he missed the whole week. In the 3rd grade, I can tell you for a fact, no one said to me, when Christopher returns, Mrs. Farry, it's day number 3, you need to make sure he comes in with the doctor's note. No one ever sent my child home, no one ever did anything of the sort. So instead of making it this mandatory thing, why don't we implement something that's a little more simple of, after 3 days, it does have to happen.
Did you speak to someone from the school while they were out?
Yeah, I
Did you
called
call
them
them
out
every
every
day?
day. I called them out every day, but my point is people are still calling their children out even if they're keeping them home. And as a parent, if I'm going to have to pay the $20 or $30 or whatever my copay or deductible is to get a doctor's note, maybe I will be a little more inclined to move forward to do the right thing for the right reason. That's all I'm saying. If there is something there that's implemented, as a parent, I've never been told that it's part of our procedure. It's not in my procedural mental mom.
Sometimes the difficult thing with doctor's notes is you'll say, okay, my son has a stomach virus, he's been out throwing up for 4 days. The doctor, you call them, they're gonna say, please don't bring him in. So sometimes it's in that way, I mean, it's a fine line. I mean, you know you're repeating. The doctors won't see your kid if they have a stomach virus.
I've never heard of that policy or like anything in any district out there like that, but I will say that the state is very clear on they want kids in classrooms.
Yeah.
Right.
They, so like for us to say, Steve, you can't come back without a doctor note, we would lose as a district.
Oh, right, now, I get that.
Yeah.
I get your point, because it put a little more pressure on the parent, maybe the parent will, push a little harder on the kid, but
Because in some parents, we keep them
it's
out.
tough.
Yeah.
There's very few reasons.
Like you're saying, it comes to financial.
Is it possible to do a 30-day, instead of a year-long attendance, not competition, that's not the word I'm looking for, reward, not necessarily reward.
Some kind of
Incentive.
Incentive, 30-day increments monthly, and the reason I say that is because if you did it monthly, it's shorter term,
For the
it's
kids.
easy, it's more instant gratification, and
For the
I mean, my
students.
kids are all about the instant.
And I think what Laura's talking about, Nancy Beta and Callahan, they're very involved in this. That's more of like an individual contract. I don't know that, because it's an expectation from them.
Yeah, it's, for me, it's like a
Be here.
basic I mean, that's a philosophy, and we could go into like a philosophy of it, like intrinsic motivation and, what you, like in life, are you rewarded for showing up at work or how you perform at work? Like, we're trying to think like long-term too. I personally don't usually favor toward an incentive for like a basic expectation.
But if the expectation isn't set at home, that it's an
Yeah.
expectation,
I just think it's an
it's our
individual,
job
it
to
comes
set
down
that
to
expectation.
like a specific student that might work for,
That's
I don't know, I think it's just a difference of opinion maybe with some people.
It's the same philosophy as some towns in Little League, every team gets a trophy.
No,
What are you
I
teaching the
understand
kids?
that.
You have to
But
learn
I'm
to
saying if you
take.
don't know
Yeah, I
the
see what
standard
you're
is to
saying.
say
Yeah.
please and thank you, because you're not taught to please and
Right,
thank you,
right.
then the expectation that it is an expectation
Mhm.
to be there on time,
Right.
because you were never taught punctuality,
How
is
about
not an
And I think there's
expectation.
advantages and disadvantages sometimes.
And
with-
to get back to the excused, unexcused, when I was still working for the Camden County Principals Association, we had, at the time, 18, I think there's now 19 high schools in Camden County. We put together a committee and studied the attendance policies of every high school. And the bottom line came down to most of the districts eliminated using the word excused. You're either in school or you're not. You're
That's
absolutely
really what
present.
Steve's saying, is that what it comes down to?
it's a 0 or 1.
And most of our policies were revised to just, it's an absence or
Interact.
you're in school.
I can tell you, Ms. Ferry, from experience this year, when a student would hit that 3-day mark, they're either getting a phone call from me, or when they would call in and record a student out, the secretaries would make a call to verify that that student was home and would say, this is day 3, your student's been out, you need a doctor's note to come back in, or they'll be counted as unexcused absences, and if it is an illness, then they would need a doctor's note to be readmitted. One of the things that we had talked about at some point was, when I was a kid, and I'm just gonna go back to the old days, but when I was a kid, I don't know that I missed maybe 5 days my entire, all the way up to middle school, because for me, it was a sense of pride to be able to say, I've been in school every day. Like, I mean, we were at school sick and those kinds of things. Times have changed a little bit. We don't want kids to come to school sick, But we've talked about the long-term possibility of celebrating someone who may have perfect attendance and saying, look, here's the deal. And then as a little addendum to, I can tell you this about September, last week of September, I realized very quick the power of presence with students who were late. And I showed up to the front door, and the students are coming in 5 after 8, 10 after 8, and they're looking at my face, and I'm going, young man, we're late again. What's the deal here? What time should we be here? What time does our day start? Is there something I can help with? And depending on how that discussion went or conversation went, sometimes I would pick up the phone and call a parent and say, listen, can I help you out? Is there traffic on the way? Is there something I can do? And those kinds of things. So we're very proactive, or try to be very proactive in saying, look, we're gonna help you with any issues you might have, and kind of get those things taken care of right away so we can have their students in school a little bit.
I think we're veering off, so we're gonna continue with the goals, and we're gonna try to keep the rest of this to about 10 minutes probably. Number 3, we continue to maximize technology. Jay, just want to hit real quick what we're doing on elementary school.
Sure. I mean, we're well equipped in our classrooms, pre-K through 3rd grade, with technology that teachers are utilizing. We just want to kind of continue to make that a focus. Our teachers at Bingham and Downing will now use real time to submit their lesson plans. Last year, I think, prior to me coming, there was a little resistance with the teachers. They didn't feel like the real-time template really matched an elementary school schedule, so we kind of didn't make it a priority last year. After speaking with real time, it was kind of like a quick fix. So we're going to use real time, and we'll kind of move toward using it a little bit more. So that's definitely a goal for my teachers. And I know the Chromebooks is a huge initiative.
The biggie is Chromebooks, and we could talk about that for hours, but 5, 6, and 7th grade are getting Chromebooks. To help with that initiative, we took away we didn't take away, we transitioned to a computer class. Our middle schoolers get 2 computer sessions a week. They'll get one in the computer room now, and then the other one will be pushed into it for 6th grade. It'll be actually a 12th language arts period, 7th and 8th, it'll be an 11th. They'll push in, they'll co-teach with the literacy teacher so that we get these Chromebooks infused in the best way possible. And it was a big purchase by the board.
And the special ed teachers are participating in
Yep,
that as
special ed
well.
teachers are participating. Yep.
There will be availability of Chromebooks in 4th and 8th grade, because ideally, one of the things that we want is we have the iPads, we have the desktop computers, we now have the Chromebooks. So we're actually providing our students with 3 different formats of technology that they are being exposed to. So even the students who will have the Chromebooks, we still want to make sure that there's exposure to iOS, there's exposure to Office. So that way it's not like it's the only thing that they're seeing, it's just a means that they're using at that time.
Okay, number 4, continue to support and strengthen the bridge between school and home. Yes.
Again, these are all bulleted. I mean, the parent surveys, I got a lot of great feedback. I know I provided that, which I think was like the last board report in June. Continue to, keep a pulse on the school community as much as we can. The Facebook piece, I think, is huge. I know Lori has some ideas about how she's going to connect school to home a little bit more
Yes.
special ed.
Well, with special education, just bringing parents up to awareness of the processes. My interaction has been that they don't always know the programs and the plans that we have in place here for special ed kids. Sometimes it's a scary process that really shouldn't be. So I want to try to bridge that gap by bringing in some guest speakers, talking about the processes here, talking about their parental rights. We give them a handbook, but do they ever read the parental rights handbook? I would like to touch on those subjects with some parent meeting nights. Right before actually we go into annual reviews, because I think that will help that process with the school, with annual review time, with parents, so we can address some issues.
From a curriculum standpoint, one of my things is what the perception is of the community in regards to the program that we offer in Runnymede, and whether or not parents feel as though it's an academically rigorous program. I will be the first one, being in multiple school districts, to tell you, I think we have a fantastic program in Runnymede, and I think we're doing more and more each year to build on that program and offer our students opportunities. For me, speaking to many parents, one thing I realized is as the students get older, many times you receive less communication from your student as well. Your son or daughter is now coming home and telling you every single thing, from who was wearing what to what they did during language arts, math. And I really, it was one of my first parent events that I had a number of 4th grade parents attend, where that was a concern that was voiced. And I feel like that perception is reality. So for a parent, if that's their perception, that is their reality. One thing that we are working on, and Jeanette's actually spoke with her today about it, was homework hotline, which we might try to bring back for the start of the year, where each section, like section 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, would do a weekly voicemail that parents could just call the extension and they could hear the homework. Because many times when you talk to parents and you say, well, they have no homework. And then when you check with the teacher's like, I gave homework every night this week. They turned it in each day. But many times it's the not knowing what's going on or not seeing things written down in the agenda. So hopefully that can bridge that gap. Another thing that we're looking at with our Google Apps for Education is really building on our teacher websites. And teachers will be given professional development this year. So it's not going to be perfection from day one. But over the course of the year, teachers will be utilizing staff websites to try to communicate with parents what's going on in their classrooms and different things that are available to try and bridge that gap between home and school.
Number 5, strengthen the connection between core instruction, RTI, I and RS, and the CSD.
Again, this is probably the most technical of goals, and I don't know which board member said it earlier, like, you feel like you have things in place but the dots aren't completely connected, like it was what, the township meetings and the board meetings and everything else. I think this goal is similar to that, in the sense like teachers are doing great things. We've got a great INRS team, we've got child study, we've got RTA, now it's like we have all those things in place, so this year we just want to really make sure we're connecting all the dots.
And also separate them to a point, like we don't want IRNS to be just a doorstep into special education, that's not the purpose. Like we want to utilize them, and we want to involve them, but we also want to keep, they're very different, because like we said, keeping the out 30 days, all of a sudden they look like they're struggling academically, but they don't have a disability, they just have a new gap because of their lack of being in school, or could be doing other things. But so if that makes sense, we want to make them flow together, but also kind of keep them apart so that they can do what they're meant to do.
I'm really using data to drive that. Like when they come to my doorstep, I want to see ABC, what we've tried, what the data is, where that is, because sometimes we do a lot of assessments, child study team wise, and sometimes, it's clear through the data now that we have all these three systems, we're not responding to intervention. There is a problem. This is something we need to address. It gives us a way to really have the right prescription to help the child, rather than just drawing at straws. So we have the data, using it for the good to know when we're referring to child study team.
Number 6, the horizontal and vertical articulation. Something that I think is done, but we're trying. I think the vertical needs to be worked on a little more than the horizontal. I think they do a lot of opportunities to like grade level meetings and stuff like that, but it's not often that third grade teachers see a fifth grade teacher. One, because of the school, but 2, because they can't. They're teaching. You know what I mean? It's one of the professions where you work next door to somebody for 10 years and you might never see them teach. So.
I think like Lori and I can definitely had a lot of experience with that this year. We kind of had an aha moment when IEPs were being written, or a lot of things that included the 2 of us, and it was like, wait a minute, like are the kindergarten teachers really seeing what's going on in the first grade classroom or the pre-K teacher? And it was just kind of, like Steve said, there's not a whole lot of extra time. We really have no extra time, but we're going to make time to make that a priority, because I think it's really important. I mean, like Steve said, we have the common planning times and we have faculty meetings, but for a pre-K teacher to go in a kindergarten classroom, kindergarten classroom throughout the school year to see what's going on, I think that's a huge opportunity professionally, and I want to make sure that we offer that to them so that it's not just horizontal and it is going up and down.
And in special ed realm, we always, and by the luxury of the support from the principals, we have the luxury of taking the 4th grade teachers over for our annual reviews, so they can ease a parent into what's going to be expected next, what that looks like in that world, and it has been very beneficial. We do have that articulation in our IEP meetings, but it's a one snap, hour, sometimes a little longer meeting. But it's really beneficial, because sometimes what you think might be good for kindergarten, or was good in kindergarten, might not necessarily be needed in first grade, or vice versa. What's not needed in kindergarten, so we have that support, and we'll continue with that initiative as far as the CST goes.
I'd like to just touch on that, because that's very dear to me. As far as the professional development, and also the kindergarten teacher knowing what first grade, et cetera. One of the programs that I used, and it worked really well, was, like you said, the time, getting the time. I was able to convince the superintendent under professional development, a lot of money, that would allow me to bring in quality subs, people that subbed at my old school, that were good people. And they would come in for the full day, and they'd be in a teacher's class, this teacher's class for half the day, and he or she was released, and they went in and
Yeah.
sat and observed full periods.
We have plans to do that
And
as well.
that really works well,
Yes.
to give you the time you need for them to go in and observe each other, and also to have dialogue after the observing each
Absolutely.
other teaching.
Great.
So hopefully,
Mhm.
something
One
like
of the
that.
best resources you can have is watching other teachers.
Oh, absolutely.
Learning a lot of
So
time.
true.
Mhm.
And last one is character ed. Jay, you can start again.
Bucket fillers, that's, everybody's a bucket filler in here. No, I mean, it really, I keep saying it, it really does work. We're just going in year 2 with it. All the teachers will be using it as their like kind of classroom management plan. Ms. Callahan's really excited. She's emailed me numerous times. She actually is gonna have like a link that we add onto our website that kind of focuses on that. We're just going to town with bucket fillers, no bucket dipping, okay?
And at Volz, we obviously are gonna, you know, day one, we have our expectation ceremony, our assembly set up, where we're gonna, you know, reinforce our reach for success. You know, we want to be high fivers, where, you know, it's respect, effort, attitude, caring, and honesty. Obviously, that's what the acronym REACH stands for. And we are looking for ways to kind of really drive that point home. With the intention with back to school night is to throw it out there now with parents. As a character ed team, we work to develop that kind of common language, this idea. We presented it to staff at in the spring of last year, and then to students as well. And that was kind of intentional to, you know, kind of get the buzz started. And we updated our character ed page and those kinds of things. We want to now be a resource for our staff, because we have character ed once a week, character ed lesson on Fridays, for them to, you know, kind of talk about some of the things that are going on with being successful as, you know, as model students. So a lot of stuff going on with character ed.
Wait, when does the character ed lesson go on each week, and who's?
It'll be
Who's instructing?
Fridays,
Fridays.
teachers, and we kind of are going to, we're in a process now where we think we're going to identify an attribute per month,
Okay.
and they're going to use that as kind of the topic. I'm in the process of kind of utilizing the CEP website, Character Education Partnership website, which provides the 11 principles of effective character education in schools. And then there's character.org, values.org, where we're going to, they give all free lessons on, for example, responsibility would probably be September's, talking about how can you be responsible in the choices you make with schoolwork and those kinds of
Right.
things. You know, and then using months like October for our attribute of respect, because October is Respect Month, and we do a whole week on, you know, Red Ribbon Week and those kinds of things. So,
So the classroom teachers are targeted to cover this information once
Yes.
a week.
Yep.
Now, what do you do with middle school kids, 6th, 7th, and 8th, well, 7th and 8th, they're changing classes? Who is their homeroom teacher?
it'll be,
It's gonna be their advisory,
Yeah,
their
so-
Friday
Advisory time.
advisory group, is
Gotcha.
gonna, so whoever's teaching that
Okay.
advisory, now, it kind of, it's one of those things where it's tough, when something's optional, it's easy to kind of save it to last, and then it never gets fit in.
Yes.
Now, you know what I mean, so
Thank
you're,
you.
you know, you're getting it,
Right.
no matter what, no matter how many times.
And what's nice is that it can be discussed throughout social studies periods, throughout language arts periods, they're doing
Yeah, I know.
novels.
It can.
Picking out characters and what they're showing, based on that common language that's being
I was
developed.
gonna say, even like our custodians, our secretary, like we're all using the bucket filler, bucket dipper thing at Bingham and Downing. So no matter where you are, it's kind of like, it's gonna, you know,
Right.
hit you.
I know some of the feedback I got from teachers too, just in using that common language approach, you know, and I would walk by in the hallway and they'd be talking to a student and say, is that, you know, being a good student and being responsible with your schoolwork? And I'm going, I just heard a character word, you know? So little things like that you kind of see kind of permeating into our culture a little bit, and we really kind of, you know, we want this year to kind of really take root.
Well, also, just to make a
Sure.
comment, as far as your evaluative process, knowing, teachers knowing that you're going to be dropping in to observe
Yeah, well, that's.
especially
for walkthroughs
during
and
these
stuff.
advisory times.
Yeah.
Because you're right, sometimes it kind of slides under the table.
We roll.
I know, don't need to.
But anyway, we know that we've probably taken more time than we should have, but we know that we set our expectations high, and we appreciate your support, we think you can do it, and, you know, you proved this last year that you're willing to do everything that you can to support us, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate you.
Okay. Now, if we click on, it's listed on your screens as board goals, it's actually district goals, 14-15 district goals.
Quick question, when I went to district goals,
You guys want some snacks?
I had a keyboard pop up, how do I get rid of that?
But I'm not.
So under board goals, now we're gonna take a look at district goals, and they're also tied into some of the goals that the administration's presented to you. So I don't know if you wanna take an opportunity to look at some of these, but the first one, I'm not gonna read word for word. More focused PD based on data collection, through more walkthroughs, observations, and staff feedback. Last year, one of the things, you know, we had the new thing set up, it was great, took up a lot of our time, but I would say, we want to walkthroughs kind of not suffer as much as we could, but we want to do more walkthroughs and get in the classrooms even more. So when we go and see that evaluate, formal observation, we kind of know what's going on. Like I know that that student, maybe Naomi is fidgety and has to get up once in a while and walk around the class, things like that, or whatever, you know? And then getting more feedback from the staff, what concerns they have. I mean, they might have to have, use Naomi, because she's looking at me right now. So I said, you know, it's good when you have that feedback. You know, when I'm really working on Naomi, sitting in her seat for 10 minutes a period of time, whatever, or something. You know, where I'm really working on focusing on Chaz with his handwriting, so I can, it's legible, I can read it, or whatever, you know, or something like that.
Very specific.
A little more, yes, just a little more personable, so you know what's going on each.
Now, with your, just to back up, just for my own information, as far as staff was concerned, how was the positive and negative feedback from the staff accepting or not accepting walkthroughs and being more visible in the classroom than any administration has been here for a long time?
I think sometimes, I know for me, sometimes in the beginning, they'd stop and be like,
They'd stop and say hello, and they would stop everything.
yeah, and that's one of
And you
my
would go, it's okay, you can keep going.
Yeah,
Right.
But then it gets to the point where, I mean, I'll see kids at Deptford Mall, I mean, I live in Vineland, and I'll have them stop and say hello to me. And they'll say, who is that? And the kids will say, I don't know, but he's in my school. And like, I'm okay, but at the end of the day, I'm not walking into the classroom going, hi, I'm Dr. McCarron, I work in all 3 schools, but they know me. Like, they know my face, they've seen me, I'll ask them questions during the lesson about what they're learning. And I think that they got used to that, to the point where, you know, they're excited to see us, and, you know, the kids, I think most of the teachers are excited to see us also. But, it became just more of a norm.
That's
And
it.
then, and then you do get, you know, you get your handwritten invitation from a 2nd grade kid to the, you know, poetry reading or something like that, so it's a little more, because they do know who that person is, and so, you know what, this is a special event, I'm gonna invite who they consider maybe a special person, maybe Dr. McCarron.
We became very popular at the end of the
I
year.
have a quick funny, last year, we were sitting, and it was September, and our central administration did a walkthrough, and when he left, they said, Mrs. Spalding, why were those attorneys in here? Because they had serious eyes on. Why did they, I'm like, they weren't attorneys, you don't know who they are? Like, then I felt like, but I didn't stop what I was doing, so then but then after they left, I had to stop and explain who they were. That they weren't attorneys in the classroom, that we were all okay, no one was in trouble.
And a lot of schools are like that. I had one student where my principal walked by and they said, who is that person? And the principal turned around and said, hi, I'm so, you know, I'm the
Yeah.
school principal. And I mean, you're talking October, November, where you would hope that, and I think we can honestly say, not only did they see their building level administrators, but they also saw the rest of the administration throughout the buildings and districts.
Yeah.
I love that concept.
So we just wanna, again, this is all still new
This
to
is
us,
a
and
church.
the amount, the volume we're doing, we just wanna make it, you know, take it to the next level in that regard. So you can kind of see the activities we have lined up. Some of them are a little similar to last year, but not as much. And then now we're utilizing the real time to streamline the evaluation model, which I believe the first day we're giving a presentation to the teachers
We're showing them the different format.
Yes, because it's gonna look a little different, anything, again, it's just change, so we know how much we love change.
Results is hard.
And I mean, ideally, come January, we'll also be, moving our email over to Google Apps from K-12. So that
Oh, thank God.
teachers will simply have real-time student information system for evaluations, attendance, grades, lesson planner, and then they would have Google Apps for Education for their website, for their storage, for their email, for their sharing of documents. So we're just trying to streamline everything that we have, so that way we can really devote our time to it and really develop what's available to us.
I mean, even though it's not a lot of time, it's kind of sometimes a pain to go from your webmail to Google to
Yes.
Adobe. It's just, now it's all housed in one.
You're logging in 2 different systems and that's it.
Yeah. So it's good.
We were hoping for September 1, but we felt like it was too much, too soon, so.
Mike, and then obviously, and we talked a little bit about, Steve talked about the technology integration, you're gonna hear that term a lot, because I think nowadays with technology, the concept of going to computer class to learn, this day and age, the homework keys, and that's kind of getting phased out in education, because especially now that access these kids have with devices, like technology is kind of like, they have in everything, so it's not, you don't wanna learn computers,
So they're gonna learn handwriting class then.
Well,
They're gonna go to
handwriting-
cursive writing class
That's,
Yeah.
with a pen and a paper and a note card and an old fashioned stamp.
absolutely not, but,
In the upper right hand
I've-
corner with a return
I
address.
can't even
blah, blah,
find a
blah.
book to buy for my own kid.
I haven't picked up a pencil in a week, no. I don't know, Mrs. Snyder, yeah.
Surprised it's been that soon, that's
so, we have, Michelle Witt working with our teachers to integrate technology on an everyday basis and every class basis, no matter what it is. That includes, math, health, art, whatever it is,
All
there's
areas.
gonna be something
And
involved.
honestly, that was feedback that we got from the state during our CUSAC follow-up visit, was cross-curricular integration. Our teachers are doing cross-curricular integration on a regular basis. When you go into classrooms, you see that. But what they wanted to see was, they wanted to see that identified specifically within the curriculum. Is that mandated? No, but that was a suggestion that they had in terms of moving forward. That was one of the 2 suggestions that they gave us that has already been touched upon and implemented.
The second goal we talked about was this, dealing with assessment. Obviously, we're trying to get ready for, the park and what format that's gonna be in. But also, we have to generate those SGOs again this year. But we also have to more writing across the curriculum, so to speak, and we've heard that the last couple of years, but that's also something I know we've got CUSAC to review. Talking about, how is that social studies teacher incorporating literacy skills in her social studies lessons, or vice versa, or in science lessons. That's something we're looking to do. And then also, as the school goals you saw a couple minutes ago, strengthen that IRS procedure, so it's not just they end up on child study team without any type of, we have so many things in place, so many great resources, so many all hands on deck sort of things. We have to have a streamlined process, so if, Angels is not just dumped in an IRS meeting, and we haven't tried to help Angel with any of her, skills or any of the things, before they get to IRS, we wanna make sure that there's a framework laid there so that kids can.
We're very fortunate that we have a child study team in our district that's able to test students that are referred to them. But we just wanna make sure that we have a process and a common language and a common goal in place, where it isn't just step 1, go see Mrs. Hines, but it would be step 1, speak to your counselor, step 2, work out a plan of what can be implemented, and realizing that if you can do well with modifications, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be classified for special education. You can be perfectly fine with the mods in place. It's when that doesn't work that you then go back to the drawing board to see what we can do.
And also strengthen IRS, we may want to add stakeholders, the parents, because that has to be, the parent is supposed to be a part of the IRS procedure, and we always sometimes don't have time for that, because if you're having a meeting during the day, the parent might not be able to make the meeting, but it's an important part of that. And IRS can cover lots of things, not just academics. It could be social, it could be health, it could be behaviors, it could be anything. So we want to make sure we're kind of gearing up for those, to try to eliminate all those referrals that we're having. It's a lot of times, Lori can sometimes tell me, you know, without even kinda, I seen that kid in the classroom, they're not gonna be eligible, you know, for services, you know, not that that's, not that she won't test them still, but,
Right, and depending on what you're looking at,
Yeah.
it's a learning disability,
Yeah.
and they're making 5 levels growth in 4 months.
yeah,
Chances are it's not gonna be a disability if they're able to move that back.
yeah.
We currently use real-time for our IEPs that are written for students. We will be using this upcoming year, the real-time system for 504s and also INRS. So our counselors were trained on that last year. They started using it at the end of last year, but now you're moving away from paper written copies of documents and you're moving more to where you're actually logging all the information for students. So if it gets to a certain point, everything's accessible in one location where a teacher can log on and see all of that information on that student available to them and what was done in prior years.
And then the last goal we established was, again, a communication piece, that I don't think it can ever be ignored, I think it should always be a goal. Some of the things we've done, some of the things we wanna add to, the students, not only student attendance, but staff attendance. Not that we have a problem, but you wanna recognize staff attendance for doing a good job. And you just, you know, you wanna throw a $20 bill at somebody, say, hey, you make a month, you're gonna get it, you know, $20, but, you know, it's nice to recognize those people that have been here. And there's little things you can do at faculty meetings to recognize staff members that are just simple. I always think it's always nice when you're you know, as a teacher, it's nice to get a note, or nice to be recognized, you know.
Yes.
And hand in hand goes with the importance of communicating district goals and visions to substitutes. Statistically, students can get grades K through 12 throughout their course of their educational career will have a substitute
Yeah.
for 1 full year of their time in school. So that's important to recognize, so that way when we bring substitutes in and we have materials and we meet with our substitutes to make sure that they're aware of, you know, the expectations within the district.
And obviously, we'll piggyback on the character education piece, as well as just continuing the PD. So I think as is always, you know, it's the first one to tell us that professional development piece for all your staff, young and seasoned, is important as you move on, because it's always, education's always changing.
As a district, one thing we will be doing with PD is we will be sending staff out of district less than we have in the past, simply because we really want to provide opportunities for professional development in-house. We have 2 excellent consultants, both Michelle Wendt and Barbara Epstein, who we plan on pushing in more often across the district to specific grade levels. And then, of course, we want to provide opportunities where teachers can push in with each other to do lesson studies and to see what's going on in classrooms for that articulation to take place. Not to say we won't be sending any staff members out, but we're just gonna see what people are requesting to be sent out for and whether or not, what we'll get back from that as a district.
And I know one of the PD things that's already happened this summer, I know Mrs. Yezi, one of her book studies, I think there's 4 books.
They got to choose from 4 books.
The teachers are using, so
And
they
that's how
come.
we're gonna kind of kick off the school year, so they were excited about that.
So there'd be some small book studies
For the staff.
for staff members.
I read 2 this summer that are excellent. One was recommended by the New Jersey School Board Association, Ask Why,
Okay.
and another one was David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell. He
They're
wrote
really good.
excellent books for professionals, especially in education. Malcolm Gladwell's written about 4 over excellent, but the latest is David and Goliath. And Ask Why has been highly recommended by the New Jersey School Board Association.
Any questions before moving forward? I know we're throwing a lot at you today, and this is a good forum to do this, because we don't really have an opportunity to have extended discussions on exactly where things are happening. So I think it's pretty good.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
Question 1 is, with us going somewhat paperless on the IEP, 504s and such.
There's still a ton of paper.
They are still for the,
Yeah, IEPs would have to be.
Because you need signatures and everything else, so that's all.
You need that phone book.
okay, so if, God forbid, we had a breakdown of our entire system, we still have paper records of everything for the students that's necessary by law.
Yes, and with those student information systems, since they are working with school districts, many times they have them,
They're backed up.
they're backed up in 3 separate locations.
Okay.
So if one of their servers goes down, They have, because we don't house the servers here,
I was gonna ask that
where
next, so.
we pay them to
external
house
servers.
everything.
Okay.
Because we wanna make sure that it's constantly running and that we don't have an electrical storm and our servers go down in bowls. I was in a district where it was like that, where you wouldn't have anything at that moment. So that's why, all these companies, they deal with schools, and that's why they have multiple locations, where that way you always have that information.
You're also web-based, so it can be accessed from
Mhm.
anywhere. IEPs are still on paper, they're not gonna move away from that.
Okay, so we're
Because
still
you
gonna
have to
do
guarantee that the parent can have access to electronic, and you can never guarantee that. Right.
Mhm.
Or you'd have to provide computers to all parents for them to
All
get
parents to get
IEPs. So
access to their
it's
iPad.
all paper-based. With the teachers though, I can see who's
Yeah.
going on, looking at IEPs and those types of things. That's helpful, or I can reference the IEP. They don't ever get paper copies of the IEPs. The child's in our child study team, they're welcome to come and look at files while they're in there, but they don't circulate, but they can look at the IEPs.
Okay.
It's a look only, they can't edit or.
They can't edit.
This is.
I assume it's a clock.
Last year, we did
So
it.
what
system do you use? What system do you use?
We use real time, same as how.
You do for your IEPs as well?
Mhm.
So now.
It's actually
like,
very
I mean,
nice.
It's nice.
I've worked with, easy IEPs, IEP Tracker.
Yeah, we use Tracker.
Do you use Tracker? It's a lot better than Tracker. I like Tracker for
No,
some,
it's only-
how you can put notes in, like when you
Yeah.
talk to a parent. That's the one thing that real time doesn't do, that I do miss from Tracker. But Tracker, you have to go,
I
it's
don't
hard
know,
to
see,
get a
yeah,
lot
this
of
says
school,
we submit
but you
the
probably
numbers
know,
that
and it's
is,
very,
but Amy will still absent.
it's a little limited, real time.
Plus, they're
It's really,
for
it's
such
like you're
a
full
that are,
voiceover, so you're not
part
writing
test
as
some
far
years.
as like.
Oh, I see what you're saying, so they're just left
I
off.
think it would make sense if you all collaborated and got one.
Benchmark.
Because when I pull out my
I don't
IEPs,
think
it's
that now,
like,
I get it now.
one means look different
No,
than
but
Hudson
I know.
Township, look different than Belmont for my
Okay,
kids.
so
One
it's-
being told, I mean, real time told us, like,
Thank you.
if they were working on a system like that, like, for example, if we get a child, like, I wanna say like Belmar uses real time, I don't know, I'm just giving you
Yeah,
example,
I-
that we could actually turn over their IEP, so that we could use it, see if, for example, not that you write the same thing every year, but I can pull, like, say Mrs. Jenkins or speech and language or whatever, she writes at present level for a child in speech and language only, and they become special ed. I can pull everything she did with that parent at that annual
Right,
review
right.
over to the spec, because it's very pertinent information, into my IEP and build off of it.
Right.
So they said they were working on that, I haven't heard any,
I'm just thinking,
It would be
so
nice.
smart if we all.
right, because we could just forward those eighth grade IEPs on.
Yeah.
Let's check some out.
Belmont, Run Eagle.
Real time had said that they were, that was something in the future for them, I haven't seen it yet, but they did say that when,
I actually did that on
I'll
our.
take them.
See if they want to audit school.
Board goals?
Look at the-
That's something. Sean, do you have board goals on here?
No, I always
We did not do, board goals because we wanted to discuss the 13-14 board goals, where you felt like you were with that and how we wanted to develop the 14-15 board goals.
Does anyone have anything like, extremely specific that they would like to see? I'm gonna pull up the 13-14 board goals then, right?
Yes, there you go.
Again, that's that first link.
So I actually, have it in a Word format as well, so I can track the changes. So like, the one thing you guys said was for board goal 2 to officially appoint
Right.
liaison to participate in 10 community meetings. So do you want to start at board goal 1,
Okay.
and we'll make any changes necessary, and we can go from there? So to support policies and programs that promote academic excellence and advancement, as well as college and career readiness. So this talks about rigorous curriculum, park, transition to our ascending high school district.
Do we want to incorporate, student attendance in there? I mean, in that statement up top?
Now, as a board though, and this is where it gets tricky, because as a board, this is really defining what your responsibilities
Okay,
are as
you're right.
board members,
Yes.
whereas the school goals and the district goals would then
Do that.
That's what we do. You're right.
dictate the attendance areas and curricular areas and things like that. So really, it's how can I support the district as a board member and promote the mission of the school district. So as Mark and I reviewed these earlier, a lot of these can stay the same because of the fact that it's stuff that you're gonna be doing ongoing. It's not anything that's necessarily changing.
Yeah,
So-
that November 13 would have to go.
Yeah, I just
We can
said
change that to
November.
ensure resources and supports are provided, implementing development of appropriate characteristic program within the district, but that's been done. So now that can also be changed to ongoing, because you wanna see that continue to develop at both the elementary and the middle schools. Now, you had stated that, you might wanna look back at the board goals. Is this something that maybe is a timeline you might wanna even say to review January 2015, like to set, what meeting will you review your board goals at? And it could be during the work session that you do that, or do you wanna just keep it as ongoing?
I think everything should be
I think, yeah, I think like a mid-year
Well,
report.
we said we were gonna start reviewing
Say
it.
mid-year report, even though, I mean, Mark's suggestion of putting like an asterisk or a star next to something that's,
I just wonder, where you could just say
coordinates
BG1, if
or
we approve
correlates with
something
the,
or
with
whatever.
the
it
board
just-
goal, yes, but I still think it needs to still be a
I think-
formalized presentation, say mid-year, just to see what we have accomplished and what we still need to work on in the year.
It would be a great idea as well, since there may be
So I
new
don't
people
think
coming
to
in.
review it once a month or
They
every
can
other
review
month is
mid-year,
that hard to
the
do.
new person coming in, they can see what we've
Not
already
just
done,
the work goals.
compare them to the rest of.
Well, that's what we said, that's why I said he's gonna put stuff on our agenda from now on.
Yeah, I think it should be district too. I think it should be every other month.
Yeah, I think just January, you're halfway through the school year. To wanna maybe make a
Do it on
adjustment.
report cards, you get report cards how many times a year?
Right.
And I mean, because when you look at the district goals, it's really encompassing everything that we are planning on doing over the course of the school year and everything that we have in place for the upcoming school year. And it's those things that then drive what you see on a monthly basis within your board report for approval for us to implement that. So is there anything you want me to add though on the bottom, or it'll just be reviewed monthly, ongoing?
Can we put ongoing,
Which is-
semicolon, reviewed bi-monthly
That's
at board meetings?
Yeah, I agree. Go eat.
Please.
Okay, the next one, District Goal 2, officially appoint, continue with social media, attendance at community and family events. Anything that needs to be added?
Well, I think with social media, you talked about Channel 19, do you want that?
Oh, yeah, we can add Channel 19 in there if you want.
19?
Channel, yeah.
Oh, just for our own information, I know that the library in town has a
Mhm.
link to the school's website.
Yes.
So they already have on their website a link to us for parents that are coming into the district, have younger children at
Perfect.
preschool age. So they have that preschool story time, and their parents are linked right to the school, so just so you know that they have that
They're
already.
communicating that as well.
Yes.
Attendance at community family events.
So we're done with our district goals.
Number 2.
Did you,
What do you think about, for number 3, having some kind of, at June Fair, I know this is getting into the details, but just broadly, having some type of, at the end of the school year, maybe having some type of recognition for all of the students that have had Student of the Month, having them, giving them a certificate
Perfect
from the
attendance for
board.
the year. Yeah.
I feel like,
Something
I-
like that, some type of recognition from the board at the end of the school year.
That's something at the
It's
school level, but do you feel as a board?
I feel like we wanna recognize more students.
Yes.
we want
far as
to have
community.
students, I don't care if it's a student who just improved his writing skills, one from each grade this 1 month. Like, I feel like we would like to present
As a board.
as a board, at the board meeting,
Yes.
every month.
Yes.
We would like to recognize someone, something, some program. We really want to
Remember that golden law?
Recognizing students and staff, is that what you want?
recognize
Yes.
students and staff, we do. We want to be invited in, you know, I mean, like, we shouldn't have to feel uncomfortable if we wanna come in and like, we wanna come in and read. If we're off, we'll come in and read, if we can, like, we wanna be, we wanna be more visible as well. Like, we like that, we wanna do that.
Remember that policy?
It shouldn't be, well, it shouldn't be, you know, I shouldn't have to, you know, walk on eggshells when I walk into the building. I'm there because I'm excited to be there, because, you know, my kids are third generation kids going through the school district in my family. Like, we wanna come in and do whatever we can. I mean, if a second grade called Maria, if Sammy called Maria and said, can you come read to my class?
Which is exactly what happened with Keegan and them, and that's exactly when I got in trouble.
She would be more than willing to do that, like guest readers and all different types of
So
things.
your recognition is high five?
Yes, yes.
So high five needs to be implemented into the board's award. It needs to be something similar so that it piggybacks off of either filling or filing.
Mrs. Yezi
It
has
needs to say
bulletin
something
boards
cute.
and she sends them monthly. I mean, they are recognized, but you know what, if those students are recognized there, you know, maybe they'll come and put a little button up on and like to come here and get a little certificate from us.
Now, many times these students are recognized during the school day.
That's okay.
Something that can also be done is they could be invited here for the board meeting to get a certificate or a
Uh-huh.
pin.
Yeah.
Or board members, if you're aware of what's happening the following month, might even be able to attend the school events.
Maybe it doesn't even have to be a black and
Well,
white.
we don't know about school events like that, just so you know. Like, someone would have to let us know about
Okay.
that.
But if they come to a board meeting,
I think it's something special.
instead of giving their certificate, they're gonna take home and put in their bottom drawer in their bedroom, maybe a medallion,
Mhm.
we give them a medal, you know, for something academic, perfect attendance for the month.
Even
rather
if it's
than a
not
piece of
what's
paper.
already being
Not that
recognized in
expensive.
school, like you said, it could be anything. I mean, do we
Well,
have
it
to
could be
have a
like
black
how we
and
have
white?
the, you.
Whatever you want, whatever you guys feel.
Yeah,
You're
that's
whatever the
what
administrative team wants to do.
Yeah.
It's
Do you
not up
remember
to us,
when
it's up to
Frank
you
Kelly
guys.
was on the
You run
school board?
school.
Frank Kelly was on the school board, Kevin Kelly saved his mom's life before she passed, do you remember that?
Yeah.
And like, it was an award, Lynn was on the school board then, Samantha was on it, and it was just something special, like, okay, it was a little more community than it was school, but still, it was, you know what I'm saying?
But just like you had, the safety patrols come to 1 month and do the safety bucket pledge, and then they were all recognized with, you know,
Yes, something
and then they
like that.
left.
Yeah.
Even if you wanted to, you could leave it open, so that way you might just say, each month we might try to bring in one student group
Well,
that
it's
can be
whatever
recognized.
it's whatever the administrative team wants to do.
Okay.
Yeah,
We-
but I, as a board member, would like to see that happen every month. Every monthly meeting, I think we as a board need to see that
Achievement.
what we sit and
We
talk
need to see
about is
students.
actually happening. You know, we get that feedback as well as a student receiving that recognition, I think that's important.
And staff.
Every month. Something different.
Yeah, and maybe it's,
Absolutely,
and
staff
staff
as well.
And
members
it
as
doesn't, right, I
well.
was just gonna say, it doesn't necessarily have to be a student, it can be a group of staff members. We had that wonderful
Woman who
presentation
did
about RTI with all
Mhm.
that staff that was included, that was fantastic to see that, so.
So, as a goal, I'll just leave
Well,
it
I
general,
think
where it
that
says
the
student and staff
administrative team
recognition,
should do that, not us.
monthly basis, monthly board meetings.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
they should pick.
And then we
Perfect.
can invite and
Yes.
participate and implement, so they can be
Yes.
recognized at the board meetings.
Yes.
Administration tells other staff.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that goal covers like presentations that staff members would want to make, the way it reads?
What's that?
I said, do you think the way that
First of the
fourth
year,
goal
make the first of the
reads,
year,
that it
teachers
also
and-
encompasses staff members that wish to come and present something to us about a program?
Was that the under curriculum now? That would come under
Yeah.
curriculum.
Or maybe the
And-
building principals.
Well, the thing is, it's staff recognition, so if there's a program that we're supporting, Or if we're bringing safety patrols, we might have the advisors come in too.
Well,
Discuss
yeah, and
what
what
they've
if,
been
what
doing.
if you doing a walkthrough and you see some really cool lesson and you wanna ask that teacher to come in and show the little writing assignments that they did, and you wanna invite her and her whole class one month because you think that that was really awesome and went above and beyond, like, whatever you want, we're not gonna
Yeah.
we're not gonna,
It's not a cookie cutter.
yeah, it's whatever whatever you and your team want to
Does the word have that, leave that there?
Yes,
So
the
it's
wording
fine.
is good, yes.
Inviting students to the women's room from President involvement and on board. Yes, that's fine.
Good thing you liked it.
Oh,
There you go.
we gotta change that 1 minute.
Done.
1 minute.
You wanted to change what? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
Today.
So at this time, is everyone ready to move on to our regular meeting since we are 8 minutes behind?
Did we do the third goal or did I miss that?
Excuse
Yeah.
me?
Just did it. I thought we were on the second one.
We went back to the second one.
Did get that?
I got a question before we go into the board meeting.
Sure.
Where are we ready to present to the board, final approval, the handbook? Remember, we were gonna change the cover name, just the board member handbook?
We have technical,
Difficulties.
so it'll be posted,
Okay.
issue with the table of contents.
And we have to add a table of contents,
Yes.
that was missing.
Yes, but that, nothing was added to that,
Okay.
so if you wanted to
That's it.
approve that today, we could, if you wanna add that on there, it's just not up, it'll be up by the middle of the week.
How does the rest of you feel? Do you want to do it now, or do you want to wait until the September board meeting?
Nobody's given me anything.
No.
Add the table of
No, that's,
contents.
all we needed at that point was to drop the word
Yes.
new and add a table of contents.
Yeah.
We still have to do it.
And then we need copies out for every board member and administrative team. So do you just want to vote at today's board meeting to approve the handbook, or do you want to do it in September when you've got the final copy?
Let's go.
Okay, we can do it today's, okay.
I'm only one of.
Where are we gonna add that to?
Yeah, new business, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, you're right.
New business? Right, but under new business, we have the property and transportation, personnel,
What page is it, new business on?
finance, it's not on.
Oh, new business, page 3?
Curriculum.
Well, to be under committee, was it a committee report?
It was a clean that did it.
Committee report?
That's it. Can you find that section?
Well, no, because if we're approving it, it needs to be under, it needs to go somewhere.
Under new business?
Just do a different one, just put public relations, that's good, policy, public relations. We'll add a number 2 to that on page,
Okay, I'm looking at.
we're looking at page 10.
Page 10.
We're gonna add number 1 and number 2, and it is the board member.
Board member hand. We could just put, yeah, board member hand, yeah.
All right, at this time, I need a motion to adjourn the board retreat.
I make a motion to adjourn the board retreat.
Motion made by, Maria, seconded by Naomi, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.